in the craziest places. I won't slow down until I meet a million faces.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Reach and Reverie. My name is Alex. Today is June 29th and it's time for another garden tour. The song that you're hearing in the background is Play It Right by DMFB. In the comments below, I'm going to leave a link to DMFB's YouTube channel as well as the name of the song and where you can find it. Now this song is one of my favorites. It holds a lot of meaning close to my heart and I hope you guys enjoy. Now we discovered this song because DMFB is actually one of our personal friends and his music is amazing. He has a few albums out there, so go ahead and check him out. Look at this. Our mint is starting to flower. Has these really pretty purple flowers. It's getting really big and tall. And ooh, looks like we have a strawberry. Throw it in our little harvest basket. First harvest of the day. These strawberries are really sweet. Now this week our Gilia globe is getting taller. I think it's gonna flower soon. Everything is generally doing pretty good when it's on the upper half of this green stalk. Everything on the lower half seems to be struggling a little bit more, getting more sunburn and things like that. I think that's because the heat is reflecting off the concrete, and so everything on the lower two tiers are getting a little bit hotter and a little more scorched by this weather versus everything in the top is just doing so good. Now I do turn this about 1/3 of a turn every day. So once every 3 days, these plants get good sun. And the other 2/3 of the time they're in pretty good shade. I did try a toothache plant yesterday, one of these flowers. It's really neat. It kind of like numbs your tongue and your teeth just for a couple minutes. It only lasts like 5 minutes. Couldn't really taste a super strong flavor. And this, I literally just licked the flower and bit the flower, and that's the effect that it had. I was actually on the phone with my sister and I was talking to her about the toothache plant, and she was like, just go ahead and try it. And so I did, and it was really neat. I could see where the toothache plant could be useful if you have a toothache or a little abrasion or something, but it's a neat little novelty to grow as well. Also called the electric daisy. Thyme is doing great. Look at the cilantro that's flowering. I think that's beautiful. Really, really beautiful. So overall, everything is doing pretty good in the green stalk. This front garden bed is about the same as last week. Our Seminole pumpkin is doing really good. Has a little areas where it's getting eaten up by the sun a little bit, but it's growing pretty well and it's putting off flowers. Forage is great. Salvia is great. I did go ahead and this week I pulled out my California poppies that were right here and some of my bachelor buttons.
So play it right.
My okra has really surprised me this week. I have been getting 1 okra pod off of this plant every single day this week. Now it is heavy hitter okra. They don't call it heavy hitter for nothing. This is the most productive variety of okra that I could find. They can produce up to 250 pods in a season. That is a lot of okra. Okra grows really fast. You can see just how many pods are starting to form on this plant. We have another flower there. Here's an okra pod here. On this plant we have an okra pod as well. They have super velvety, soft pods. I harvest them when they're between 4 and 6 inches long. If you wait any longer than that, then the pod starts to get really hard and fibrous and it's not as good to eat. I actually prefer to eat okra fresh when it's young because it's so much more tender and flavorful. Okra can be served in a variety of ways. You can fry it, you can just take a bite out of it. That's so good. Okra has mucilage in it, which is actually really good for your gut health. Now I have pruned these plants quite a bit this week I went ahead and started to pull out some of the spent bean plants, and I also pruned quite a bit of our tomato plants just to keep airflow to a maximum. This week we have been in the 70s in the day at the highest, and we've been in the low 60s at night. It's just unheard of for far western Texas here in the Chihuahuan Desert. This time of year we are normally up in the triple digits all the time, and we have like 70s and 80s as nighttime temperatures. So this is so unseasonable, which is crazy because up north in the Pacific Northwest they are dealing with record hot temperatures, which is horrible. I really feel for you guys up there. I understand that is just not something that, I know we get hot out down here too, but we have time to acclimate to it, and it's a dry heat, and most of us down here have air conditioners. So if you guys are going through that up there, I really feel for you. We support you 100%. Hang in there, stay hydrated, try to stay cool, and we are thinking of you because I know those summer temperatures are no fun. Now, oddly enough, we have been below average for this time of year. We have been in the 70s in the daytime and in the 60s at night, and we have been getting rain every single day this week, and we have rain on the forecast for the rest of the week as well. I was lucky to get a few moments to shoot this garden tour when it was nice and dry, but here in about an hour or two we're gonna get rain again, and it's gonna keep coming down. So because of all of the rainfall that we've been getting, we have had to stay on top of pruning our plants. Now you guys, I went and looked back at the video that I recorded of myself planting these tomato plants, and I have been misinforming you guys this whole season. I forgot what I planted where, and I thought that I remembered, and I have been telling you the wrong tomato plants all season in this garden bed. So let me clear a few things up right now. So all summer, all spring and summer, I have been telling you guys Dr. Weish's, Paul Robeson, Amish Paste, Chihuahuan Desert Star. And I've been over here hating on Chihuahuan Desert Star because it hasn't given me any tomatoes yet. Although, look at that. It's gotten taller than me this week. This is not Chihuahuan Desert Star. So the real lineup we have is Dr. Weish's, I got that one right, Chihuahuan Desert Star, Paul Robeson, and this tall boy is Amish Paste. When I picked that tomato and it was fluted, I realized Paul Robeson doesn't normally look like this. And I went back and looked at the video and realized, like, this is Chihuahuan Desert Star and it's doing great, which actually makes sense. So I actually graduated from college with a degree in biology here locally about 5 years ago. Now, one of my professors from back when I was in college, he actually was one of my art professors, and I had him for a few classes. He actually saw me recently and we were talking about gardening, and he brought me some tomato seeds, and one of those tomatoes was Chihuahuan Desert Star. Now, the story's a little bit fuzzy, but from my understanding, it is a stabilized hybrid that has been grown in this area locally for long enough for this hybrid to have predictable fruit and a predictable way of growing. It is an indeterminate variety. He said it was ribbed and about 1.5 inches in diameter when it's fully mature, the tomato. And so I decided to plant it out here in our garden, and it's doing really good. It literally looks like your traditional heirloom variety tomato, like a big slicer, except it's miniature. Like, look at how ribbed those tomatoes are, and look at how many tomatoes they have. There are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tomatoes right here. Nice prolific variety, doing really good. Then we look down here, here's another one. And I'll show you a picture right here of the ripe tomato that I already got off of this plant. I do also have a real Paul Robeson. This is Paul Robeson right here. And overall, those tomatoes are doing pretty good. I'm really happy for this amaranth. Look at how beautiful it is. I've had to pick off a couple caterpillars here and there, but look at that, it's gorgeous. And our borage, this is white borage. I cannot wait for those flowers to come out. other side of this 4x4 foot bed, I did pull out my Brad's Atomic tomato this week. I have this empty spot right here. Now, for whatever reason, this Brad's Atomic was not thriving in the garden this year. I can definitely try again next year with another Brad's Atomic, but taking the tomato out while it was sick is going to prevent the other tomatoes from getting whatever was bringing it down, and it's also going to give the other plants more nutrition in the soil because that tomato is not feeding off the soil, and it's going to give these tomatoes more airflow and more space to grow. So since that tomato wasn't producing, it wasn't growing, it was really stunted, it was a little sickly, I decided to pull it out and let everything else have a little more space. My white currant tomato is doing good. We've already eaten a few tomatoes off of it, and the fruit is super, super sweet. At this stage, they're still a little tart. I think I'm picking them just a little underripe. Now, it is a white currant tomato, so it's not gonna ripen to red. It's kind of cute, huh? Super prolific. This week, I'm happy to report that my peanut has started flowering. With all of the rain that we've been having, I decided to thin out some of my nasturtiums. I'm making a little bit more room for my red Malabar spinach. And I've also thinned out quite a bit on this side to give more room for my noodle beans and my Tigger melons. So I took out about half of the plants on either side of these nasturtiums. I actually made a really delicious pesto this week out of those nasturtiums and some homegrown basil as well. Now look at this pretty zinnia. And look, there's a cute little white spider sitting in there. He's probably waiting for some unsuspecting pollinator to come in so he can eat him up.
Hope can be found in the craziest places.
Now let me introduce you to the June 29th summer garden here.
So open your eyes, 'cause life's a game where you're gonna play. You only get one try, so play it right. So play it right. In the craziest places, I won't slow down until I meet a million faces. There's more to this life than the cars that you drive, so open your eyes, 'cause life's a game where you're gonna play. You only get one try, so play it right.
I'm originally from the East Coast, and I am living out here with my husband in the Chihuahuan Desert of far western Texas. My entire side of the family, my parents, my sisters, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles and cousins, they all live in the East Coast. And I only get to see them once every few years. So it was a great treat when Luis and I got married this April. My parents flew all the way out here and got to visit with us for a few days for that. But I really do miss my family a lot, and I really cherish getting to spend time with them. And yesterday, my sister Lauren and I, we are about a year apart, but I feel like we grew up almost like twins. Like, we're really alike in a lot of ways. We look like twins. In fact, we were roommates in college, and everybody was always getting us confused, and a lot of people referred to us as the twins. And she actually was a TA, which is like a teacher's assistant. So she was a teacher to some students, and a lot of the time I'd be walking around on campus and other students would come up to me and try to talk about their grades, and I'm like, hey guys, you got the wrong sister. That was a tangent, but the moral of the story is my sister and I are really close, and she's actually growing a beautiful garden, even bigger than mine, in North Carolina where she's living right now. And so yesterday we were video chatting and showing each other our gardens, and we were on the phone for about 2.5 hours, and it was just so special to get to share our similar things that we're growing and the different things that we're growing, and just talk about our struggles in the gardens and our hopes for the future. And it was really amazing. Now both of us are actually growing the Charente melon this year, and ours are about in the same stages of growth, which is really cool. We were showing each other pictures and we're like, that's what mine looks like, and she's like, well, that's what mine looks like. We actually have the Charente from the same seed pack. And I was out here counting my Charente fruit that are starting to develop, and I counted 7 baby melons on this plant. And I think our most developed one so far is right there. Isn't he cute? So I'm really hopeful that even though we are what feels like worlds apart, we can share our Charente melon together. Now, I was sitting back here on my little garden rock looking at my tomatoes grow. I feel like at this stage in the growing season, you can see them growing if you sit out here long enough. They just are growing so fast. And I discovered a little garden blessing under a few leaves in this corner. Look at this beautiful little tomato. It is like perfectly round. Isn't that the cutest little tomato? This is supposed to be the Crimson Cushion, which is a pretty ribbed tomato. And look at that, it's not ribbed at all. So I'm wondering if my front garden bed isn't the only one where I mixed up where I planted what. Which is a great reason to label everything that you plant. Learn from my learning experiences, you guys. Now, how am I supposed to get back to the other side of my garden? This Ronde Denise is really taking over this space. If only it would produce as much as it grows. Here on this side of the tomato hedge, I have a few more things to show you. I discovered a large barred boar. Isn't he pretty? Look at those beautiful streaks on that tomato plant. Now he's actually going to ripen to red with green stripes, and it's going to look almost metallic. That is a variety I am anxiously waiting for. Now in the corner here, I have my Blue Beauty plant, and I grew Blue Beauty last year very successfully, and this year I have a plant that has just been struggling to thrive. And I decided this week to go ahead and top this plant. Now normally when I see a plant that looks sick and just isn't struggling, I would pull it out. But we have a little Blue Beauty tomato growing on this plant. So instead of pulling it out, I'm going to try to force this tomato to ripen faster. That way he could at least give me one fruit. So when you top a tomato plant, you're essentially cutting the top of the plant off, and it will force all of its energy into ripening the remaining fruit on the plant before it dies. Which is why you never want to top a healthy plant unless it's the end of the season and you're trying to ripen your tomatoes before your first frost. So once this little tomato ripens, I'm going to pull the tomato off, and then I'm going to pull this whole plant out because he's just not doing very good this year. In this garden, I'm really excited about my Pattison Panache Jaune et Vert Scalloped Squash, which is basically a yellow and green patty pan squash. Now sometimes this variety throws yellow squash and sometimes they're striped. This one, I think it's a little too soon to tell. He might end up being all yellow. I can't wait to try him. Look at how big he's getting. That is a nice squash right there. I can't say the same for my eggplants. They have been struggling a lot. They didn't like the hail that we had, and the flea beetles have finally found them. Looks like I might be getting a little eggplant right there though. One of my favorite things in the garden this week are my giant yellow marigolds.
So play it right. So play it right.
My chrysanthemum melon is also doing pretty good. It looks like the sun is beating me today. We're losing daylight, so I am gonna quickly harvest my ripe peppers and I will show you what I get.
Hope can be found in the craziest places. I won't slow down until I meet a million faces. There's more to this life than the cars that you drive, so open your eyes. 'Cause life's a game, are you gonna play? You only get one try, so play it right.
All right, so this was today's harvest. Looks like we got an okra, some pepperoncini peppers on the left, some buena mulata peppers on the right, a lone strawberry, and a white currant tomato. Now, I'm not positive on the history of the pepperoncini or the buena mulata, but I do want to research these peppers more. I do know that the pepperoncini is a pickling pepper, and the buena mulata, it's supposed to be spicy. Ours haven't quite gotten spicy yet. I think it's a little early in the season. Your peppers actually get spicier as the season goes on. I think they look really cute, little curly cute end to it. I've also been having to harvest a lot of my basil because it has been trying to flower and go to seed. So I made a lot of pesto yesterday. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today for the June 29th garden tour. I love spending my evenings walking through the garden, showing you guys all of the greatest and latest things happening on our homestead. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget, give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, go check out DMFB's channel. Go check out Play It Right. Go see what else he has. He has a lot more content on his channel. Plenty of music for everybody. I hope you enjoy.
So play it right. So play it right. So play it right.
Does any of this stuff make it back into the house?